I used to spend hours scrolling before bed. That is, until I picked up this book. I went from reading like 3 books a year to over 60. And I'm going to tell you how you can do it too, and how these 5 books will help you get started. I got my first smartphone when I was 15. It's this iPhone right here that is cracked and beat to hell. And when I got this, it came with a rule. No phones in the bedroom past bedtime, which was 9 o'clock. I had to charge this by the front door with all the family's other phones. So what did I do? I sure didn't zonk out at 9 p.m. No, I read. I read for hours on end. I read and read and read. I cranked through The Hunger Games, Divergent, Percy Jackson, and the likes. As an adult, I found myself missing these times, these nightly adventures that often wouldn't lull me to sleep, but rather rouse me into further states of awakefulness. I have several distinct memories of waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to sleep, and picking up one of these books and reading for a few hours until I got tired again. My point is, I used to reach for a book and not my phone. I hated that the order got switched. I didn't even have a book an arm's length away anymore. So what did I do? I got myself a book. I knew I couldn't start with a dud. I needed something fun and exciting. Something that made me want to crawl into bed every night. Something, and this was the hope, something that would make me want to reach for a book instead of my phone. Enter Project Hail Mary. I'd heard good things about it. I'd seen it in plenty of those like airport bookstores that are always showing the most recent reads. I hadn't read Andy Weir's other book, The Martian, but I had heard that that book was phenomenal, and I had seen the movie and really liked it. So I thought this book had a lot going for it. It sounded fun, and that's what I wanted. Within the first few chapters, I felt like I was 15 again. My phone, though still on my bedside table, might as well have been charging by the front door of my parents' house. As I made my way through it, this book just kept getting better. It's beyond good. I read it in a week. I stayed up till 1:30 one night to finish it. I couldn't have asked for a better book to start my adult reading journey. Okay, but how do you go from reading this to over 60 books in a year? How do you not get stuck back in that cycle of picking up your phone, scrolling 2 months away before cracking into another read? The trick which worked for me, and this is gonna sound so stupid, how simple it actually sounds, is you just have to pick up another book. You have to keep reading. If you finish Project Hail Mary on a Tuesday, I encourage you to crack into your next read on a Wednesday. At the time, this was foreign to me. Finishing a book in my adult life felt like an achievement. If I ran a marathon, I wouldn't be first in line to do another 26.2 tomorrow. At least, that's how I'd been going about it. But I just had to remind myself that this is what I wanted. I wanted to change my habits. I wanted to read more. So why wait? Why space out my time before I could get into another story as good as Project Hail Mary? You're telling me I can get something this good again? Yeah? Well, actually, Project Hail Mary is one of the best books I've ever read, so it's hard to top, but you can get pretty close. That was the hardest part for me, was finding gems to make this new hobby fun, to help me keep going as I was forming the habit. So that's why I picked out these 5 books in the hopes that you could avoid that. So whether you want to jumpstart your reading journey, need help getting out of a slump, or just want a good book to read, these 5 got you. I've already talked at length about this book, but Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I recommend this book to anyone who is in need of a good read, especially those who want to kickstart a reading addiction. This is sci-fi at its best. One man finds himself with the fate of the world in his hands. The Earth is facing an extinction level event. Basically, it's the reverse of what we've got going on now. Instead of things getting hot, the world's getting frigid, and the clock is running out. Except our hero doesn't know who or where he is. This book is such a fun adventure, and that word perfectly describes what it is. This book is an adventure. It is so funny. There are moments where I laughed out loud reading this, and the ending is perfect. The Long Walk by Stephen King, writing as Richard Bachman. In the late 70s and the early 80s, Stephen King was writing so many books that his publishers had to come to him and discourage him from publishing more than one book a year. So King proposed to Signet, his publishers at the time, that he would start publishing some of these other books under a pseudonym, Richard Bachman. Bachman was also somewhat of a social experiment for King, as he wanted to see if his stories would find the same amount of readers being published under not his brand name. My version of The Long Walk is collected in this compendium of Bachman books, but you can also find it as a standalone. And let me tell you, this book is a ride. Think The Hunger Games, but if Stephen King wrote them, and instead of the games, as the title suggests, it's just a really long walk. 100 high school-aged boys gather in the state of Maine and begin walking down U.S. Route 1. They have to maintain an average of 4 miles per hour. If they fail to do so, they will receive a warning from a group of army men that are following them on their walk. If they receive 3 warnings, they are publicly executed on live TV. Oh yeah, that's right. The Long Walk is like the Super Bowl of an event in this dystopian future. We follow Garrity, walker number 47. And the question that's proposed on the first page of this book, how far will Garrity walk? This is a great book for many reasons, and one that I love is that it's short. And for someone who's just starting their reading journey, if you can find something that's bite-sized but full of flavor, man, that's like finding the Holy Grail. 5 Decembers by James Kestrel. This was hands down the best book I read last year. And it might be one of my favorite books ever. Think True Detective Season 1, but in World War II. This is a classic detective story that, in my opinion, needs to be talked about more. This book is so good. It starts with Detective Joe McGrady being sent out to go investigate a homicide in Honolulu, Hawaii. I mean, right from the jump, this book grips you. As he digs more into the gruesome murder, McGrady uncovers a trail of clues that take him from Hawaii across the Pacific to Hong Kong. Meanwhile, the attack on Pearl Harbor is only 2 weeks away. America is about to enter into World War II, and everything is about to change for McGrady. Everything except for his determination to get to the bottom of this case. This story is phenomenal. It's one of action, great crime, and mystery tropes, and it also packs a killer love story. Another reason this story is so good is due to its writing style. Kestrel uses a short and to-the-point sentence structure. It reads punchy. Its dialogues are jabs to the kidneys, and its prose are uppercuts to the kisser. Like Project Hail Mary, this book has a perfect ending. I can't believe it hasn't been adapted into anything yet. It would make a fantastic TV show. 5 Decembers. Get in on this book before it explodes. These next 2 recs are a bit different from the previous 3. Project Hail Mary, The Long Walk, and 5 Decembers are all relatively fast reads. Even though some of them are a little bit bigger in page number, just the way you read them is zippy. All three could quite literally be the dictionary definition of what a page turner is. That is not to say that these two aren't page turners or that they aren't good. They're both those things. These two books are some of my favorite books ever. They're just maybe a step up in a reading challenge. Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This is a Western epic, and it's a chonker. If you want to experience what cattle ranching and life on the plains are like, read this book. If you have no desire to experience what cattle ranching and life on the plains is like, still, read this book. Lonesome Dove is so much more than a book just about cowboying. It is a love story. It is a deep and enriching book about family and friendship. It was a knee slapper at times. And it was a book that gave me, through its two main characters, some of the best friends I've ever had. That's what I think the magic of reading really is. How you can insert yourself into a story and fully experience what it would be like to live amongst the people that fill these pages. I find that long books, more so than short books at times, have the ability to latch on to the moment in which we read them, to form a sense of nostalgia for a season or a month of the past. It took me the entire month of May to read this book. And now, whenever May rolls around, I think of loping up to Montana with a cattle drive of over 100 head with the boys in this book. That's what I love about reading, that can happen, that I now look forward to May 2025 because I know I'm going to feel enrichment from something that I read several years ago that still lingers in my psyche. There's a nostalgia for it, and it just doesn't get better than that. The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch. One of the ways to read more is to explore genres and to find a genre you like. When you find one, stick with it. When I was getting back into reading, I found that I really vibed with fantasy. I'm still drawn to fantasy, and The Lies of Loch Lamora is the best fantasy book I have read. Picture Ocean's 11, but in Renaissance era Venice with magic. Yeah, it's sick. This is a heist story through and through. We follow Loch Lamora, who is a thief living in a very Venetian-inspired island city called Camor. He and his band of conmen are known as the Gentlemen Bastards, and they are on the horizon of pulling their biggest score. But another player lurks in the shadows and has other ideas for them. This book is funny. I had several laugh-out-loud moments reading the cleverly crafted insults that Locke hurls at any passerby he encounters. Like any good con story, there is plenty of mystery here that have our characters going up and down along the whole journey. I included this book on the list and saved it for last because I think it's a great jumping off point. There are two other books in the Gentleman Bastard sequence, so if you like this, you already have two more waiting for you. And spoiler alert, they're good. That is not to say that you need to read all three of these books. The Lies of Loch Lamora is a complete novel. It has a complete ending. There is no cliffhanger. So if you just want to test the water with this, if you want to try your hands in a little bit of fantasy, this is a great start. So here's the thing. The key to putting down your phone and reading more is just to do it. There's no special trick other than that. I deleted socials and that helped me a little bit more, but at the end of the day, I could have filled that time with anything else. I wanted to read more, so I made it a routine to read every night before bed. Sometimes I'd get a page in, sometimes a chapter, sometimes a few hours worth. That first year of retraining my habits, I only read 16 books. Still a huge jump from 3. The next year, I climbed even higher and surprised myself by hitting 42. Then this past year, I read over 60. If you can set aside the time to read, and it doesn't have to be at night, that's just what worked for me, but if you can set aside the time to read and you stick to it, you'll soon see that you'll be reaching for a book at other times of the day. You don't have to read these 5 books either. These are just some of my faves and books that I think would be a great place to start if you're just looking for something fun and easy and captivating. But by all means, if you have books you want to read, if there are things that you've been checking out, grab those. Read those books. Read what gets you excited. Read what gets you interested. Read what you want to read. But these are some pretty good books. I still make it a goal to read every night before I go to bed. But now, anytime I have a free sec, I have a book in my hand. I read all the time. It didn't used to be that way. It used to just be that I'd read for 15 minutes at night. But once I did that and kept doing that, I just kept grabbing books. I just kept reading. I still have my phone on me. I still have this on my bedside table at night. It's often in my back pocket. It is just a thing that continues to be glued to me. But a book now accompanies it, and that feels good. I always have a book on me, because you never know when a good reading moment might strike. Hey, what's up everyone? Thank you for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, consider giving it a like. Got a beautiful day out here today. I'm just sitting outside and reading the long ships. So, talk to you later.